both the Barnbird and ZingoTV apps from the respective iOS and Android app stores, as both apps are absolutely free. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment, as we really want to hear from you folks. And Zingo TV is also available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks also available on all smart TVs from 2016 forward. So welcome to Club Tracks, folks, here on the Barnbird Network and Zingo TV. And let's introduce our very cool co-host this evening. As always, he is the lead singer and guitarist of New York City's hard rockin' band, The Handful. Please welcome Mr. Mark Cool Dude Duda.
What's up, brother? Good to see you.
You too, man. Best time of the week for me right here, right now.
No doubt. No doubt. Looking forward to it.
Me too. And we'll introduce our very special guest this evening. And she's a Canadian pop artist who just released her second single about moving on. Soon to release her next record, which is called With Pleasure. She joins from her home in Edmonton, Alberta. Please welcome the one, the only, Visya.
Hi.
Hello. How's it going, Edmonton? So far, how's it going over there in Edmonton?
It's going. It's going. Yeah. It's
You guys got snow yet or what?
Oh yeah, we've had plenty of snow. Although we're enjoying really warm weather right now. So we had a big dump, but now it's I don't know, it's been pretty mild. Looks like it's gonna stay that way for a little bit.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
The City of Champions, Edmonton, Alberta.
I suppose.
Well, once upon a time.
Yeah.
So it was like,
I do live here, so.
Oh, sorry, what's that? Sorry?
I do live here, so.
Yeah.
City of Champions.
City of Champions, because you're there, so that's why.
We're full of champions. Yeah. Exactly.
So you're born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta?
No, actually, I grew up in Stony Plain, just west of the city. So so small city living, I guess. I lived in the country a lot growing up, so I moved to Edmonton when I started attending university. So
I see.
That was I started attending university and then I dropped out for a year because I was like, nah, I'm not ready for this. And so, but then when I returned, I studied music in 2009 for a couple years, and that's when I stayed, because by that point, you kind of like grow your network and meet a bunch of people, and there's not really a reason to move back to Stony Plain. So
yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of evolved that way, in that direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I get it. I gotta ask you, where did the name Visya come from? What is the story behind it?
It's not as exciting as you might think.
Come on, bring it on.
It's my last name.
Okay.
So my first name is Alex. My last name is Visya, but I have learned since moving to the last name only thing that it is like a first name as well, usually for women. Italian background, but my family name is Dutch. So so I think about 5 years ago, probably, or maybe a little more, I switched from first name, last name to just using my last name. So
cool. I like it.
Thank you.
No,
right, you call me Duda.
Yeah, like Duda. Or
that's
Club.
Awesome.
That's it, brother.
Is that that's your real last name, Club?
That's my real last name, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's kind of funny. Yeah. Well, I used to box, and they used to call me Chubb, because of the security company out here that's really well known. They think, well, 2 B's, it must be pronounced Chubb. And it's like,
right.
Club. No. Yeah, it's Club.
Yeah.
It does happen.
I've had some interesting mispronunciations still, but so I even made myself a just for fun, a Visya logo that looks like Visa, but it says Visya. Lots of people have said that. I'm like, you guys,
though.
It is, right? You would think so, but it has happened so many times.
Is that right? Interesting.
Yeah. People just like
out of Visa.
They just like to overcomplicate it. You're like, no, it's exactly what it looks like. You're so smart. You got it. And yeah, it's funny. But
I guess it's like it's human nature, right? In all of us, we all kind of
totally
overdo it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how'd you get started in music? Was it your inspiration? Was that moment? Like, what was it for you that got started off in music?
Well, back in the day, I started out like a lot of folks do with piano lessons first. So when I was 5, my mom, she had taken piano lessons as a child, so it was just kind of the natural progression, like, okay, and now you shall go take piano lessons. But I actually really enjoyed it and loved it, so I took piano all the way through like high school age until it just got, there's too many things going on. I couldn't continue, but so I studied classical piano, and then um started out singing in choir at church when I used to go to church as a kid. And then our church choir leader, because it was like a youth choir, it was actually quite well done. And she was a vocal teacher just in the town. So she said, I have two younger sisters, so the three of us were in choir together. And this woman said, you should all come and take lessons from me, because you seem like you have like a natural kind of ability for singing, and I could teach you some things. So I studied classical voice as well, and then got into the country music, of course. So I was raised definitely by the Dixie Chicks and Shania Twain. And so I started playing with my two younger sisters in a little family trio. It was very cute. And we did that for probably 8 years or so. So from the age of about 12, I started writing songs around then, and picked up
Wow, so young.
guitar and started, different songs than I write now, but no swear words or anything. But yeah, it was kind of an outlet, because I kind of struggled with relationships in school, just with friends and things like that. So it was like a nice way to get my feelings out. I think that happens with a lot of songwriters when you're young. You're like, man, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to express myself, but at least I can put it into this kind of medium. So that's how I got started, was just kind of a very natural, organic way. And my first stages were at the old folks' homes in my hometown. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, very, very wholesome upbringing, I guess. But then, you go on to study music, and I kind of broke out and did my first solo things in 2011. So most of my life, this is my life. I've been doing it for a long time. And yeah, so it's all I really know right now. And it's good. So yeah.
It's very good. No, it's very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was actually say too, like yeah, I was catching some of your earlier songs, earlier material. And there's one track that kind of grabbed my attention the most, which was that track you had like 3 years ago, Mountaineer.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good track.
That's a great track. It's a great single.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wrote that one about actually one of my sisters, because she's always been moving around the country, and I can say whatever because we're all good, but we're really close and tight. We get over things quickly. But yeah, there was a time where I was quite frustrated because she kept leaving to go off and be in these relationships and whatnot. And, I'm the oldest. You should know that right now. So, very protective and just kind of, like, I know what's best for you. So why are you going and chasing these guys around the country? Like, you're not going to find yourself there. Like,
Yeah,
just being that older sister, just like very protective. But at the end of the day, writing that song was kind of me coming to terms with the fact that, like, everyone has to live their own lives. Alex, you can't tell them what to do. So I wrote the song, and it was kind of like a nice way to kind of get that out of my system. And but yeah, and it definitely has like a bluesy kind of element to it, I suppose. And yeah, I don't know.
It's a great track. Great
Thank you.
Great song. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you very much.
Very much. Well, let's over to Mark Duda for a question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you bring the track up. I mean, I had a chance to listen to that album. I think it's called Placeholder. Is that the record from 2017?
Yeah.
And it did have like more of an indie alt rock type of tinge to it, a vibe. And then what I was struck by stylistically when I heard the brand new material is that it's a little bit different. It's got a little bit more of it's a little less raw. It's a little more sophisticated, has a pop sensibility to it. So talk to us a little bit about how that happened. And, is that what we can expect from your forthcoming album? What's gone on in between?
Yeah, definitely. So this year, earlier in April, I released a little single that was a Neil Young cover, and I kind of went into the studio and tried out like sort of leaning into the pop a little bit. And honestly, the last couple of years, that's where I've kind of, as a music listener, gone, because I'm just always trying to learn more all the time. I'm just like, okay, so I grew up with folk and country, bluegrass, Western. Now where can I go? And I think it's like, it's kind of a coming of age thing in a way, because I feel like the older I get, like the less self-conscious I am. So it's like it's easier to lean into things where maybe in the past I would have been like, oh, that's like really cheesy or something, you know? And
Yeah, I
so
get it.
Yeah.
yeah, totally. And so now it's like, no, I actually want to lean into it and embrace it, because music and creation and being an artist is all about trying out new things, I think. And that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on, is just like, okay, placeholder, I still love that record. And I play lots of the songs still. Like I did a little live stream recently and played a whole bunch of them. Um, some of them don't resonate with me as much anymore, just because of the person I am now. There's a lot of
Sure.
things where I'm like, oh, like that's the way she felt then, but now I'm not like that anymore. But I guess that's the beauty of making music and albums too, is they're kind of like these little timestamps. But
Yeah.
yeah, so this new record with Pleasure, even you can tell by the title, I suppose. I'm kind of focusing on just having fun with it, and not to say that all of the song content is like fun necessarily. It's more about the vibe and just the approach that I took in the studio, and even just like the process of creating the album, because I wrote most of the songs, well, yeah, except for like a couple. I wrote most of the songs in a very short amount of time, at least for me, because I'm not so far a very prolific songwriter. I kind of take my time and collect the songs over years. But with this one, it was like, okay, the studio dates are booked. You're going in to do this. You better have some songs. And even when I was in the studio starting to record and lay down the foundations for these songs, I was still finishing writing. So yeah, definitely you can expect kind of leaning into that more pop realm. And actually with the next single, I'm really excited about, because I think, at least for folks who know my music so far, they're going to be a little surprised. And
Okay,
so,
well, that's
Good,
great.
good.
yeah,
And
yeah,
tell us a little bit more about your process then. I mean, it's for you, is
yeah.
it like, because you do play piano and I noticed you play guitar as well. And
Mhm.
I saw you playing actually, I think Northern Sky by Nick Drake on your social media, which I thought was cool. I'm a big Nick Drake guy. I know Noel and I have
Yeah.
spoken
Yeah.
at length about Mr. Drake. But anyway, so with the new record, your process, is it more like that you're getting these musical riffs or these progressions that come to you, and then you think of something to sing over it, or do your lyrics more inspire the music or inform the music, or what's your process like in that sense?
Yeah, that's a good question, because this album has definitely been a bit of a departure from how I've done things in the past. Like when I first started writing songs, I think I definitely was like a lyrics first kind of person, because I was just very much married to that being like the most important thing. I was like, okay, the words are everything, and it has to make sense, and it has to be poetic, and like all these things. And then but with this record, and especially the way we approached it with the production, um I essentially didn't start with lyrics for most of these. It was more of a feel and a vibe, and thinking about groove and like, okay, how fast do I want this to be? And then, keeping things a little more simple too, in terms of like chord progressions, and having more repetition maybe. And even thinking about when I was writing the lyrics, like, okay, thinking of how many syllables are in this line. Okay, I'm going to rhyme this line, and I want them to kind of be the
Oh,
same. So
absolutely.
it was
Yeah.
definitely like thinking as a pop songwriter. So that was
Hmm.
really fun, because I feel like it was, it had its own challenges, because sometimes you're just trying to fit things in. And so you're like, okay, I have to just let this breathe. And like, I spent a lot of time just like marinating in the bath, just like have my laptop on a stool next to the bath, have a notebook, and just like, listening to my little crappy voice memo on my phone over and over. Like, that's how I kind of come to things too, is like, my phone has a lot of little voice memos of sometimes just singing, because it's usually like a melody and a groove that comes to me
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was kind of like the melody and the feel of something informing what it would be about, because I'm like, what does this feel like? But then of course there were a few songs that I kind of had little tidbits just like from a while ago, that I thought, okay, well maybe this could be an idea I could expand on. And so that's kind of where I went, where I would go through my phone, and it's like I'm so
I do
bad at
that too. Sometimes you put
labeling
a few
things.
things,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
together.
Yeah, and it's like you kind of can go back and be like, oh, you know what? I do like this, and I'm gonna see where I can take it. And some things you're like, I have no idea what I meant whatsoever. So I'm just gonna leave that. But yeah, and it was essentially like in the studio, myself and the producer, engineer, Nick Davies.
And were they different people? Did you surround yourself with some different people in order to make that change?
I mean, compared to Placeholder, because Placeholder I co-produced with Emily Bashinsky. She sang backups on the record as well. And we've collaborated on many different creative endeavors as well together. But this was just a lot of Nick and I together initially, where I'd say, okay, I've got this song idea. You know, he'd set up a microphone. He has like a Korg SB1, and I would sit down and just kind of play the basic triads to the song. You know, we'd find a tempo that would work, and then I would sing over it. And then so we just had this kind of like ghost track to work with. And then he would go and spend some time sort of like fleshing out maybe the rhythms a bit, because he's a drummer. Well, he's a multi-instrumentalist. But you know, kind of thinking from that standpoint first. And so things like bass and all the guitars didn't come till later. And actually, I didn't play any guitar on this new record at all. It's my first time not playing any guitar. I just played I played some keys, and I sang a lot of vocals. I'm the only singer on it, so there's lots of cool layers.
I mean, the vocals are great, and sometimes you know, having different instrumentation or something you're not used to, right, will inspire a different type of performance, right?
Totally.
So I think it's good whenever you want to change to kind of, you know, introduce yourself to some new folks, and I try and do that as well. So that's great. Now, do you have you know, I heard you do that Nick Drake cover, so I still have that on my mind, and that's really cool. And I know that comes from sort of that folk part of you. Is there another artist that you'd like to cover? That you do cover from time to time?
I have been doing a lot of covers this year, just like as a way to be active on like my YouTube channel and just like continue to learn music. I've been putting out new videos every Friday, so that's been really great. And it's really been quite varied. Because like I'm listening to music all the time. It's like I always say, like, as much as I am a music creator and artist, like I'm a music lover and fan so much. Like I cannot live without it. Like my Bluetooth speaker and my like wireless earbuds are two of my favorite possessions, because they enable me to listen to music in a way that I enjoy. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, so it's anything from, you know, like Nick Drake, Neil Young, Miley Cyrus, Jordan Rake. Like I listen to a lot of UK artists as well. I've been kind of delving into that. And I mean, like, I think like Spotify in a way has opened me up to some new artists in this time anyway, because, you know, the algorithms will kind of show you some things. And sometimes it sucks because the algorithms aren't amazing. They're like, oh, you want to hear this again? And you're like, no, I want to hear something new, please. But I'm so tired of this. They're so great, but I don't want to hear it anymore. But, you know, I do rely on just like other artists sharing their listens as well. But yeah, covering wise, it's kind of all over the place right now. And it's really just like if a song really hits me, I find. And I've kind of turned into this listener that I get hooked on like one song and I just play it over and over and over. I just like, I need to hear it again. And then each time I listen, I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that last time. And like, you know, just like, I don't know, there's something about certain songs that just have this, like, they speak to me in a way, and I'm just like obsessed with it for at least a week. And then I'm like, okay, on to the next one.
I hear that. But you've been stylistically diverse though. So yourself, so it makes sense that your tastes would be diverse in that way as well. That makes perfect sense.
I like to discover a lot of, well, I've listened to a lot of R&B this year too. I've been kind of just really interested in these genres that I hadn't spent much time with before. And it's been super interesting because you just learn so much through listening. I mean, that's just the way. And so then when I go to write new songs, I can be like, oh yeah, I kind of want to, I mean, like this thing, or try out this idea, you know, based on what I've been listening to or something.
Well, your voice is a wonderful instrument. I could hear it working in R&B as well.
Thank you.
What are some things that because you know that your voice is a gift, but it isn't just a gift, right? It's something you have to kind of work to maintain. So is there, what do you do? What's your routine? How do you keep your voice in shape?
I actually use this series of warm-ups by a woman named Elaine Overholt. She's out of Toronto, and a friend of mine passed along these recordings, these warm-up recordings, a handful of years ago because I was getting ready to go into the studio to record some vocals for kind of like a modern opera. It was, I went and did, long story short, I went and did a residency at Banff Center in 2017, I believe it was, or 2018 rather. And I met all these composers. And then one of them eventually afterwards emailed me and said, "Hey, I think you'd be great for this character in this opera I'm doing. Would you be willing to come to Banff to record these vocals?" And I was obviously, absolutely, yes, I will totally do this, because anytime like a brand new experience enters my life, I'm like, I say yes to it, because I'm going to learn so much, and it's going to be, maybe it'll be stressful, maybe it'll be really hard, but I know I can just do it. You know, you'll get there. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out how to do it. But anyhow, I was like, okay, I really need to buckle down and make sure I'm warming up and training my voice a lot before this, because the range was like more demanding than I was used to, and the music was very, like, I hadn't read music in a long time, and just a lot of the melodies were very different for me. Like, it wasn't where my ear went. So I was like, okay, call up my friend who's like a professional. Well, she teaches voice. She's studied jazz at U of T. She's, you know, just so talented. And I said, "Laura, help me. I need I need some exercises. I need to really up my game here." So since then, I just like use these exercises, and honestly, they are very cheesy, most of them, but like, I think all vocal warm-ups are cheesy. You just have to really get into it and be like, you know what, that's okay. Because they work, they totally work. And so yeah, before any live stream, before anything I do a series of vocal warm-ups, and sometimes I have more time than others, but if I'm doing a full session, it's like I want to be singing for probably 45 minutes to an hour before I do anything. But I wasn't always like that. There was a time where I was very lazy.
Yeah, I know, but it catches up with you, doesn't it?
Oh, and you just notice, like at live performances, you go for something and you're like, "Oh, I thought that was gonna be better."
People just think it's like a gift, you know, and you have it and you can just get up and sing like that any day. So I always think it's cool to talk to people about it, because a lot of folks don't realize that, you know, you have to work at it. It's like,
totally,
you know,
no, 100%. And I mean, there are things like vocal care wise too, where it's like, you know, hydration is super important, and like,
of course,
you know, like I enjoy some adult beverages from time to time, and like I enjoy some you know, herbal remedies from time to time, but in general, it's like I'm not a smoker, and I try to, you know, drink tea and things like that. Just try and treat it well, because I really want longevity with what I'm doing. So
stay hydrated, use your body. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Noel,
and I think
Noel gets that because, of course, he's a boxing coach.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. True. And like exercise too, I think is like.
But your body's your instrument. You're a singer, so that's it. That's part of maintaining your instrument. So that's interesting. Cool. Noel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was very interesting stuff there. That's what I could kind of touch on too. We kind of touched on with Mark earlier, was from your the placeholder record, the sound you had, and move on to the new one, with pleasure. Such a distinct difference. And,
it's quite
very
different.
Cool. Very cool. I gotta
Thank
say.
you.
I do love that indie sound you had previously. It was I thought it was very good stuff.
Yeah.
And now this new sound I find is very melodic, and sometimes kind of haunting. And actually, I kind of like that. What you got going on there.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting stuff.
The one thing, go ahead. No, I was just going to mention, like, because I've only put out 2 songs so far, and the way I think about the album With Pleasure too is like, it's kind of an album of singles in a way. Like, you're going to see as more songs come out that there is quite a bit of difference between each song. So there are going to be some that lean into more like rock and roll, and then there's some that are definitely more like dancey pop, and I don't know, it's just like a lot of fun to kind of try out some different things. So I'm really like interested to see how, you know, different songs grab different people too. So that's kind of how we've been approaching it, is like, you know, each song is its own little thing, and we just try to reach folks who are going to appreciate that specific song, really. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally get that. 100%. Yeah, your first 2 singles are very melodic, which I do like. I like it. So it's nice,
Thank you.
Nice sound to it.
Thank you.
The song I think it's the first single, which is "Walk Me Home."
Yeah.
The first single. Is there a story behind that? What's your inspiration behind that song? Musically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because well, the house I'm living in now in Edmonton, I've been here for just over a year now, and I remember sitting down writing this album. I started writing it well, pretty much a year ago, really. I started writing
Okay.
it. I had two songs in my pocket that I'd written a couple years prior, but all the other ones I wrote brand new. And Walk Me Home was one of was pretty much the first one I sat down to write. We have a really nice acoustic piano in our living room. It wasn't like super in tune, but that doesn't matter. It has a really nice tone and feel. And so I would spend time sitting at the piano and trying to write things. and it really started with the chord progression for me and the melody. And
Mhm.
the original that I sat down to write was actually like probably a third lower even. I think one day, that particular day, my voice was extra low. Sometimes that happens and you're like, wow, I can
Caught
sing.
the right moment.
Yeah, totally. And so I was just kind of like enjoying that. And I think it just, I mean, I've always journaled for pretty much my whole life, and not like, every day necessarily, but I've got journals throughout most of my teenage to adult life, and even as a kid, diaries. And so it's just like it seemed like the culmination of a lot of personal growth,
Yeah.
especially last year. I went through a lot of things personally in my relationship, and just like figuring out, what am I looking for? What do I want? What do I need? And, often it's not going to be found in the external. So you have to really go inward. But,
Well put.
just like anyone else, there are lots of times in my life that I look back on less than fondly, and you're like, okay, I do not really like who I was then, or like the things I did or said, or whatever. But it was kind of this point where I was ready to be like, you know what? It's okay that that's where you were at. You can make peace with that. You're not that person anymore. It's just part of how you got to where you are now. And I also think that's kind of part of it, of Walk Me Home. And then the other thing was also just being more comfortable with um knowing that I don't have to just do everything alone all the time, like especially when it comes to, if you're struggling with something, whether, I don't know, mental health is the big umbrella, but it's, if something's bothering you, like there are people you can talk to in your life. You're not
Yeah.
bothering them. They're
Yeah.
willing to be there. They love you. You just have to kind of stop
Open up to
thinking of
them.
yourself as this burden. It's
Yeah.
like, so that's kind of where it came from. And just like, yeah, I just moved into this house, and so it was just kind of this, starting to feel a little bit more settled, and it just kind of was the right time for it to happen, I think. And yeah, I remember sitting in the winter darkness with a little bit of whiskey nearby and just like playing this on the piano and figuring it out. And once I finished it, I was like, okay, this is a good start. You got a song. Now write another one. But yeah.
Because yeah, when I hear your songs, like I do kind of feel like it's very much for we hear your stuff specifically. It's very kind
Mhm.
of introspective. Like you really are kind of
Yeah,
searching more and more and more of yourself, but kind of course,
totally.
manifesting through your songs and through your
Yeah.
lyrical content, which yeah, I like it
Yeah.
very much.
Because oh, thank you. A lot of the songs I've written in my life anyway do hinge on relationships, whether they're romantic or not. And this one was definitely like, okay, a relationship with myself, what does that mean? So it was kind of, I think that's just, yeah, it's where I'm at right now in life, where I'm really
Yeah,
interested in that, and I'm spending a lot of time alone, given the circumstances. Somewhat that's forced, but because I can be a very social person as well, but it's been, you learn the most about yourself if you are spending time with only yourself, I think.
yeah,
So
yeah. Be
that's
more
kind
the
of,
introverted kind of position, if you would.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and trusting yourself to just like learn what your own inner knowing is, rather than based on what other people think or think they know
yeah.
about you.
No, that's true.
So yeah. So
That's
but it
very
was
true.
it was kind of a nice, it was nice to have that as the first single. It was the plan all along kind of thing, but then just with everything that even happened this year, I don't know, it just felt right.
Yeah,
Sometimes things feel cosmically put in front of you and you're like, okay,
they're
great.
all lined up.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you one more question before we start back to Mark.
Mhm.
Watching your videos too, I do
Yeah.
kind of find kind of interesting because maybe it's just me or what you're kind of doing there, but I found your videos are at moments kind of whimsical and kind of
Hmm.
like a mystical thing going on there, kind of like
Yeah.
a subliminal thing going on there. Is
Yeah.
that actually a conscious effort on your part, or is this something you kind of just kind of happened through osmosis?
I mean, as I'm surrounded by butterflies on my wall, it has been conscious. I think with this year, this new record, just kind of where I'm at emotionally and mentally and everything. Um, I've just kind of really been trying to embrace that side of myself because, I think there's this tendency to walk through the world as needing to be very like, okay, I must appear strong, I must appear put together, or like rather maybe this idea of like you can only be one thing at one time. And so right now I'm just kind of really interested in like fun and play and color and glitter and just I don't know, like you can have this kind of magical, sometimes childlike, I guess,
Yeah,
aura
yeah,
and still be a badass and still be, you can be all the things all at once.
for sure you can be.
And so, but I think for a long time I was kind of thinking like, okay, no, I can only be
Yeah,
one way or
that's
the
true.
other. Like you can't be all the things.
Yeah,
And so this is me kind of embracing I guess yeah, like femininity a lot too because that's a thing. 'Cause I don't know. Looking back, it's really interesting because I know there was like a phase too where because like your image is a huge expression for how you feel inside, I think.
yeah,
And people pick up on that. And
especially as an artist. Yeah,
yeah, totally. It's another way that you can express yourself artistically. And so, there was a time where I was like, no, I'm going to wear pants with riding boots and button up shirt untucked. I'm not going to do my hair. I'm not going to wear makeup. I'm just like, I'm all about the music and that's it. Like especially being a female, I think at that point I was like, I want people to hear the music and just really go off that. I don't want it to be about any of this. And now it's kind of changed where I'm like, you know what? Like I like wearing makeup. It's fun. I like butterflies. I like flowers. I also like drinking whiskey. I like, like you
that's what we
can
heard.
yeah, right? So it's like you can do all the things all at once,
Right on. I like that.
So that's kind of the idea. And then also like especially with the Walk Me Home video because I made it while I was in lockdown here initially. The original idea that we had kind of thrown around was like, okay, like we could have this day in the life of, now we're in lockdown. And I thought of that and I was like, no,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that is the reality
So
of
fast.
everybody right now. That's like so boring. Like I want to take
You
people
want to
out of
escape.
that and I want to have fun with this. And it's like, even though the song itself, it can be kind of seen as a bit serious, I guess. I thought, no way. Like I love dressing up. I love themes. I love costumes. So yeah, I kind of took a total different approach. I was like, you know what? I want to make like a DIY pop music video. I'm going to lip sync straight to the camera. It's going to be slow motion. It's going to be so fun. And stressful because I will do it all myself. but, but, but yeah, it's definitely been a conscious thing where I've just, I want to just do the things that make me feel or that bring me joy because
Yeah,
I think that kind of
that's
thing,
important.
I think it's important for me as a person and then also
Yeah,
people pick up on that and like
absolutely.
the reason I do music is so I can connect with people
Correct.
and so it's like whatever energy you're putting out that's what they're going to pick up, so
Yeah,
that's kind of what
100%.
I'm interested in right now, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say you can actually, if I were you, if you could just do a little more like whimsical stuff in your videos, I think makes you
Yeah.
very unique. I gotta
Thank
say.
you. I'm
Yeah, I
really,
like
I'm
that.
really, really excited about this next one I just shot, and it's gonna come out in January sometime. And
Cool.
I'm a dancer now, so I'm really
Oh,
excited
very
about
good. Very good.
it. So stay tuned for that.
We will. We will. Over to Mark. Over to Mark.
Yeah, listen, I think it's important to be comfortable in your own skin and not be
100%.
Yeah.
afraid to be
100%.
yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. So I want to talk to you. I know none of us could play live this year, right? So that's
Hmm.
tough on all of us. I know when I make a record, initially I'm thinking about sort of how do I capture that snapshot in time that's each song, but then I'm thinking, okay, how do I pull it off live? Who do I want to surround myself with? How is this going to be? So let's fast forward 6 months from now. What's your live show going to be like with the new record? Who do you picture being on stage? Do you have ideas for videos, clothes? Like, tell us, what it's going to be like.
Yeah. So I think initially what will happen, just how I'm imagining things kind of opening up again is I've actually been focusing a lot on working with a team in the UK and then some folks in the US as well, and Canada. But I kind of foresee myself probably going out and doing kind of a lot of solo stuff initially, like, like radio tour type stuff and just like the initial kind of
You're going to
promotional.
accompany yourself?
Yes, yeah. I'll
Okay.
probably maybe I'll bring one accompanist with me. I could see myself maybe traveling with like a guitar player so I can just focus on singing more. Um, but ultimately I will have a full band probably just to perform the record as close to what it sounds like. So
Right. Okay.
that's kind of what I'm really interested in and having a very like tightly put together show where you're playing the same show each night so that it's just like and you rehearse the heck out of it so that it's really tight. And sometimes I will play keys, sometimes I'll play guitar, sometimes I will just sing, which is kind of a new thing for me. I've played in bands like cover bands and things like that where I'm just the singer, which is really fun, but I've never really explored that with my own project yet. So I'm looking forward to like the variety and just like thinking of the whole show as being like this seamless production. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And yes, I am thinking about clothes.
Well, I mean, the whole imagery and the vibe of it, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you
Yeah.
had, and like Al Noel was talking about you've got it's flowers, it's pastel colors,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's the opposite of what we're having now, right? Like I watch
Yeah.
those videos and I'm like, I wish I was out there,
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
in here, and
Yeah.
it's
You want to
so.
escape with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, how do what kind of vibe do you think the audience is going to get from you? What kind of emotions are you trying to evoke? How should your audience feel when they leave your show?
I feel like what kind of emotions? Yeah. I've honestly, like when I was even writing this record, I my main focus was I wanted to be emotional. So I feel like when it comes to a live show, that's what my aim is going to be, is just like really trying to embody each song as fully as possible, like whatever the emotional content is, because I have some songs like, like the most recent release, which is very ethereal and very dreamy, but like so heartbreaking. And then I do have some songs coming out that are just about having a great time with somebody and really having no cares in the world. So I think it's going to vary a lot. Um, but in general, I just want to dance all the time. So I think like even some of my future material is going to be very dance oriented.
Cool.
Um, but yeah, right now it's like, I don't know, I feel like the live show is going to be really fun and really exciting because it's going to be a real journey because there's a lot of variance
Yeah.
in the songs. So
That's cool. It's something to
yeah,
look forward to. That you had
yeah.
described your placeholder as a collection of singles. Is
Yeah.
this like that in that sense, or is this more of a listening experience where you're supposed to sit down and listen to the record, and each
Right.
song's more of a chapter in a whole?
Um, yeah, with this album, I feel like, I mean, the sequence that we came up with for the record, I'm really happy with because I think it kind of takes the listener from sort of like where Placeholder left off in a way. Like even the first track on this new record, which folks won't hear for quite some time, still not till the spring probably. But I do like how the album progresses from that kind of like placeholder place and
Yeah.
then it kind of like takes you on this journey that gets more and more, I guess, pop oriented. So
Okay.
I think though, like the album as a whole does sound like an album, at least to me, and maybe that's just from where I'm standing with it. I've just been living with it, breathing with it for a while. But the fact that the musicians who played on it as well are all, it's like there's um sorry, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the musicians on the record, they play on each song really. So even having that stylistically, it's like, the same guitar player
A
played
band
all the
approach,
guitar.
yeah.
And yeah, we track them all separately, but just having stylistically, that specific guitar player and what he does and what he brings, it's like
Right.
that really kind of is a common thread through the sound. And then the fact that I did all of my own vocals, all the backups, everything. And then just having like, Nick played all the drums. And I think having that kind of core group play on all of the songs helps tie it together too. It just happens inevitably.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It's, I'm really, really excited about it. It's one of those things where, I mean, I'm not like listening to this new record all the time, but from time to time I'll go back and just check it out. 'Cause I'm like, okay, how do I feel about this still? Okay. Yes, I still like it. Great. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you listen to it so much during the recording process, right? That like I get sick of it too. And you want to kind of let it marinate for a little while and be
Totally.
apart from it, and then go back to it. And do I like the mixes? Do I, all that kind of stuff? Because I hear you. It kind of you get dead to it after a while, and you gotta sort of let it sit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's great to hear. So when you go back and you listen to what you did, you're satisfied with it, and you're looking forward to it coming out the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's,
Cool.
it's just, yeah, it's more one of those things where like I go back and listen and I'm a little apprehensive at first, but then I'll listen to it and I'm like, no, man, this song slaps. Like, I love this. This is great. And I think that's really important. And I think a lot of artists can sometimes be like so self-deprecating to a fault that,
Sure.
it's hard for them to love their work. But I think there's a way to be excited and proud about what you create while still being humble. So I think that's just kind of like where the place I try to come from, because it's like, man, like you spend a lot of time and effort and funding and everything to create these things. It's like you should feel good about it. You should feel proud about it. Like you made a thing. Like it's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it won't be the last thing you make, and lots of other people are making things too, but I think like, I mean, also with I have so many artist friends, and it's, when they're putting out new music too, I'm like, hell yeah, like I'm so excited for you. Like that's been like a big thing for me too. And especially like you can kind of get this weird competitive vibe sometimes growing up in the music industry, like this idea that there's not enough space for everybody. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. It's a state of mind. Like, it's like you get to choose how you want to approach those situations.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like I choose to want to champion everyone else as well, because if you lift other people up, then we all kind of rise to the top. You know what I
It
mean?
takes courage to put yourself out there as an artist,
It does. Yeah, it
And it's
does.
particularly if you're doing anything different, right? We all get comfortable when you step out and you do something a little different. You're going to be apprehensive a little bit, but unless you're sort of living on that edge of your comfort zone, right? You're never going to evolve in any
Yeah,
way.
exactly.
So,
That's key phrase right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think evolution is like ultimately what I'm really interested in as a person and with my art and everything. It's like the idea that today you're not the same person you were yesterday. And so, when you go to create new music and a new album, it's like it's exciting to be able to try new things, because like why the hell not, right? Like that's kind of the point. So
right, you don't force it, you just kind of see where it goes, and that whole thing is kind of not knowing what's going to happen is fun. I mean, it's
an adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is an adventure for sure.
Agreed.
Right on.
Well, I was watching your living room live sessions going on, their episodes. So I thought it was pretty cool. It's a good way to kind of replace not able to play live. You got this outlet for yourself. Are you getting good responses doing the living room live shows?
Yeah. So at the start of everything being turned completely upside down, I immediately went to live streaming because I had to cancel my spring tour, like so many people did. But I basically played one show in Calgary, and then the next day I canceled the rest of the tour because it just wasn't going to be feasible and things were closing down. And so the next night I set up at the studio where I recorded, and we figured out setting up a live stream on YouTube. And so I did my first one then. It's been a huge learning curve just figuring out how all this works. Like literally today, I finally figured out how to make all of this stuff work. Excuse me, for I've been doing Thursday live streams on YouTube. And I used to just use like I'm using this little podcasting microphone tonight. And I used to just use this plugged into my laptop, and that was good enough for then. But as time goes on, you're like, well, maybe it's time to kind of step things up a little bit and make it
Yeah.
sound and look better if I'm going to do this consistently. But it was just like, oh my gosh, I never thought I would learn so much about all of this. Just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, finally today we got things working better, but it was a case of a new computer OS not really supporting the software I wanted to use.
Oh no. Oh no.
So now I'm using like 2 computers at once for now until the software catches up with the OS. But yeah, it's just been this crazy time, but it's been a really great way to, I mean, for my own, just like musicianship and artistic practice, just being like, okay, I'm going to show up every week and I'm going to learn new songs and I'm going to play for people. And so that's been good for me just to have, a thing to focus on and things
Yeah.
to practice. Because I do have lots of friends, especially initially spent maybe like months not even picking up their instruments.
Correct.
And that's okay because everyone deals with these things differently. It's like, it's not a normal, usual year. So,
Correct. Yeah.
but for me personally, the way I get on and cope is like working. Like I gotta keep working. I gotta keep moving forward. I got projects to do, like, and so I've been working a lot. But it's been a lot of trial and error. I tried out some different, I was doing some Facebook live stuff every Sunday afternoon for a while and kind of doing like outdoor live streams, which was another thing. Like, can my computer last this long? Like,
Right,
I don't know, and just figuring out like, okay, what time of day are people online more? Or like, what is going to connect with folks the best? So it's been a lot of just trying things out, tweaking it, figuring out what works. And so I've kind of settled on these Thursday evening live streams on YouTube. And the really cool thing has been like, there is like a small core group that show up to every single live stream I do. And to me, that means a lot because people can choose to do so many different things for an hour on any given night. And the fact that they choose to spend it with me, it's like, okay, like I feel really supported by those folks just being there. And it's like, we're pals now. So,
right on.
So it's great. And like, I started a Patreon page this year as well. Just to kind of try that out. I'd thought of it for a while and then, now it's like, okay, well, I have the time to figure this out and try it out. But in general, yeah, I've just focused a lot on online content, live streams, and, just trying to see how I can grow through the internet for now because we can't do live shows. And so
exactly, yeah. It's the next best thing you do right now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's kind of just the whole mentality of do what you can with what you have. And so that's what I've just kind of tried to embrace and keep going with.
Doing a good job with that. Let's send a question over to Mark before we run out of time. Over to Mark.
Sure.
So,
time flies.
Listen, 2020's been, a tough year for a lot of people. And I know you brought up earlier how you're using the isolation to your advantage and using it as an inspiration or a vehicle to write and be introspective and learn about yourself. A lot of folks out there, the mental health aspect of it, the isolation is not good. There are people that are alone. Like I always joke that, my mind is like a bad neighborhood. You don't want to go in there alone, and I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by people who care about me. What would you say to your fans? Who know, maybe some even reach out to you who, people who are alone, who are having a tough time getting through 2020. What are maybe some things you could say to those people to, to kind of get through this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think honestly, like something I've just realized is that the same thing isn't going to work for everyone, because for a while I was doing kind of like some Wellness Wednesday posts because I do want to share the things that I learned that I find that work. And so that's kind of what I've been doing a lot. It's like, I read lots of articles online. I try out different things. You know, you have your own moments of proof in your life where you're like, well, this works for me. It might work for you.
Mhm.
Right.
But
Yeah.
honestly, like the number one thing that has helped me is committing to exercising. Like that has
Okay.
been like the huge
Structure.
thing. Structure, yeah, and just like really committing to doing that regularly, because as much as, you know, okay, like the physical benefits are awesome as well, but like mentally it just helps me so much, because I can tell it's like I will get borderline depressed if I'm like ignoring that part of my life,
Right.
because it's like it's just science, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you exercise, you sweat it out, you get the endorphins going, you feel good. And so that's been huge. And then I think making time to have conversations with people. It's like, you know, FaceTime is amazing, really. And like doing video
Yeah.
calls, um, they really do make a difference. And, you know, not just relying on texting. Texting sucks. Like nobody should use that
It does.
as their, you know, main source of communicating, because you lose so much. You miscommunicate most
I
of the
agree.
time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like so I mean, like I think really making time to connect with just those like handful or those few people that you
Mhm.
really feel connected with.
Right.
And I understand that like some folks maybe don't have that either. But you know, a lot of the times for me when I'm doing things online and posting and whatnot, like I do very regularly mention, you know, if anyone ever wants to send me a direct message or an email
Yeah.
or whatever, or like you
Right.
want some snail mail, whatever, like I'm available and in
That's
some
cool.
capacity, you know, like, and so I do have some friends that I stay really connected with that I only met through performing and doing music, and that's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially like I have friends around the world too. It's like, you know, I got WhatsApp and things like that, and it's very cool. Some of the people I feel closest to don't even live close to me anyhow.
Yeah.
But
I met this guy, Noel, from Toronto.
Exactly. This guy from Mark from New York.
yeah, exactly, right? So I feel really grateful for technology, even though sometimes it doesn't work the way I want it to. But yeah, I feel really lucky and just like the circumstances I live in, especially being in Canada. But yeah, I think to folks that maybe might be struggling, it's just like finding that even that one person that you can kind of talk to and maybe I don't know. It's
And
like
then
it's
mental
finding
physical connection that you
yeah.
mentioned is
Yeah. The
helpful too,
social
because a lot of
sentiment.
people neglect that, you know.
Yeah.
I really yeah, they totally do neglect the physical connection to the mental, and I'm always trying to be like encouraging to like friends, family, whoever. And it's like, no, I'm not like I'm not trying to push anything on you or like nag you or whatever. It's just like
Yeah.
I just have my own personal proof and how good that feels, and I want that for you. Like I want you to feel good. But
Yeah.
and it just takes some discipline really and like showing up for yourself. But
Right. And
Yeah.
to not expect something that I'm going to feel better immediately. It's just
totally.
you'll notice after a while of making
Yeah.
yourself get up and move that, oh, wow, I feel better than I did before I did this. And that's kind of how it works. It's almost like
Mhm.
prayer that way, you know.
Yeah.
It
True.
You feel
is. It
better
really
if you do
is.
it, you know.
Yeah, and getting outside too. Getting outside for some fresh air. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
go around
Sunlight.
the block a couple times. Like
Especially in
just do it.
lockdown, you got to get outside, folks.
You really
Gotta get
do.
Yeah.
outside.
Like the physical can really help support your emotional and mental. And I think that's just like that is the main thing I've learned this year is
It's
like
good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
prioritize the
It
physical.
is.
Like and it's not just I'm not yeah, I don't know. It's hard to convince people. People have to want to do it though, you know? Like
Correct.
you
Yeah.
can't as much as you promote it and say how good it is, they have to want to do it for themselves.
Yeah.
So
Hey guys, got to cut you off there. This
yeah,
show's
sure.
out time again. Every week it's like this. It's like, where to go? Where to go?
Oh, it just
Gone.
flies. You're like, what? We don't have half an
Fine.
hour more? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But hey, I gotta say, you're an amazing guest. I gotta say, and
Thank you. I really
both
appreciate you having
entertaining
me.
and highly, highly educational at the same time. So it makes a
Thank
perfect
you.
show for Mark and me. So right on.
Awesome.
Yeah. Really looking forward to the record.
Thank
Me
you
too,
so
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I had a great time. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure for us as
Yeah.
well. Well,
Awesome.
thank you, Visya. Thank you, Mark. And I got to do my last moments here of my last words of the show here. So this show can be heard on the Barber Radio Network on almost 122 platform. Sorry. Please check out barber.ca for all the news. Bar Burner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, Live it, everybody. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Visya. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
See you soon, eh?